Substance-related disorders are broken up into two categories. And these are substance use disorders and then substance-induced disorders. And those would be the kinds of problems that are caused by the use of substances. In this video, we're going to mostly focus on what is called substance use disorders. There are 10 categories of substances that can be the cause of substance use or substance-related disorders. And those categories are listed here. They include alcohol, caffeine, cannabis, marijuana, hallucinogens, which includes PCP but is sort of given a separate category medically, inhalants, opioids, which is like heroin and the codeine type of medications when used inappropriately, sedatives, hypnotics or anxiolytics, stimulants, which includes amphetamine type medications, cocaine, that sort of thing, tobacco, and then another category which is labeled other or unknown in the DSM. You might notice in the list that these are not kind of fully distinct. There's some overlap, but the general idea is that all of these chemicals can trigger in the brain a reward system. So they trigger a pleasure response, and that can create a situation where human beings go back for more. And that is a cycle that is triggered that can create a pathological response that is not good for human beings. Of course, the biochemical and pharmacological actions of these in the brain are all different, but the end result is the same. The latest edition of the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual has also included gambling, but has actually excluded some of the other behavioral addictions, including sex addiction, gaming, internet gaming, some of the other things. And the reasoning is that more research is needed. This is a really controversial point. Lots of doctors and psychologists and mental health providers and other people, other specialists in the field disagree with that. There's a lot of argument about it. So while you're watching this video, if you are the person considering your own substance use and wondering about it, then I would like you to think about powerlessness. In the 12 steps, and you don't have to buy into the 12 steps, a lot of people don't. A lot of people feel very uncomfortable with the concept of 12 steps. First step is aimed only at powerlessness. And I find the concept of powerlessness when it comes to substance use and abuse really helpful. So what the first step specifically says, we admitted we were powerless over, fill in your substance, alcohol, whatever, that our lives had become unmanageable. So think about that as we go through this video. For most of us, if we are struggling with any kind of substance, that is true. If you are someone who has a loved one who you are concerned about, then similarly, I want you to think about powerlessness. If your life is unmanageable, if you feel like you are powerless over not the person, because we're all powerless over other people, but powerless over the substance, that's the thing I want you to focus on right now. Now let's talk about substance use disorder. So the essential feature of a substance use disorder is a cluster of cognitive, behavioral, and physiological symptoms that indicate that an individual continues using a substance despite having significant problems that are related to the substance. So in other words, you keep on drinking or using or smoking or whatever in spite of the fact that the substance itself is causing you lots of problems. And that's the core indicator of a substance use disorder. In order to give this more structure, the criteria for substance use disorder is broken up into 11 criteria, which fit into 4 groups. The first group is loss of control, also known as impaired control. So, for example, the person might begin to take larger amounts of the substance over longer periods of time than was originally intended. They might experience multiple unsuccessful attempts to cut back or cut down. I'm going to only use or drink on Fridays, or I'm only going to drink beer, or I'm only going to smoke weed, and it doesn't work out repeatedly. They will experience increasing levels of time spent either using the substance or thinking about attaining the substance, or possibly recovering from the effects of. So the next grouping is social impairment, and social impairment can show up in several different ways. One is social withdrawal and isolation. Another is failure to perform obligations, social obligations, so work obligations, family obligations, community obligations. And another is a tendency to behave in ways that create a lot of interpersonal problems, and to continue to use the substance regardless of escalating interpersonal problems. Risky use of the substance, and this falls into two categories. The first is really what it sounds like, which is using the substance and then behaving in risky ways. So maybe driving while intoxicated, or getting involved with situations or people that might be very dangerous and hazardous while intoxicated, or while in pursuit of the substance, or that sort of thing. The second is continuing to use the substance in spite of knowing that you are somehow endangering either your physical or your mental health. So becoming aware that you are making your body sick or your brain sick, and continuing to use the substance anyway. The last group is the pharmacological criteria, and there's really just two pharmacological criteria. That's tolerance and withdrawal. Tolerance is the need for more of the substance as time goes on. So the same effect requires an increasing amount of the substance over time. Withdrawal is the experience of tremendous craving for the substance when the substance is absent from the system. And that craving is only resolved by taking either the substance or something very similar to the substance. In the case of alcohol, either using alcohol or something like Valium or Xanax or Ativan, which affects the same neurotransmitter receptors in the brain, so that the craving is relieved. It's important to note that tolerance varies depending upon the individual. So tolerance for certain symptoms is different depending on how much and for how long a substance is used. It's also important to know that tolerance to certain effects may be different than tolerance to others. So, for example, one individual may develop tolerance to slurred speech, tolerance to wobbling when they walk, but not tolerance to respiratory depression. In other words, they may show very few signs of intoxication and still be sensitive to respiratory depression and death, just the same as somebody else who hasn't been drinking for a protracted period of time. So I'm going to go through all of these criteria based on the use of alcohol. And I'm choosing alcohol. I could choose any of the substances. I'm choosing alcohol because it is legal, it is very common. And just to give one statistic, estimated to be responsible for approximately 55% of automobile fatalities in the United States every year. So I'm choosing alcohol, but again, it could be any of the substances we've spoken about. So alcohol use disorder is a problematic pattern of alcohol use leading to clinically significant impairment or distress manifested by at least two of the following occurring within a 12-month period. That's the definition that comes from the DSM. So if you're wondering. That's specifically what it is medically. And 2 is not very many. There are 11 choices, and you only have to have 2 in the 12 months. So let's go through the 11 choices, okay? Number 1, alcohol is often taken in larger amounts or over a longer period of time than was intended. So that's one of the criteria that we talked about a minute ago in the first section. That means you go to a party, you think you're going to have a drink, maybe 2 drinks, and you have, 6. And that happens frequently for most people. Or you go to a bar, stop in at a bar, you think you're going to be there for an hour, and you end up being there for 6. That kind of thing. Number 2, there is a persistent desire or unsuccessful efforts to cut down or control alcohol use. So I'm not going to drink for 30 days and it lasts a weekend. Or I'm only going to drink on Tuesdays and it lasts for a week. Or I'm only going to drink on the weekends, or whatever the control is, and it tends not to last. Number 3, a great deal of time is spent in activities necessary to obtain alcohol, use alcohol, or recover from its effects. This is sort of the energy around the alcohol. Number 4, craving or a strong desire or urge to use alcohol, particularly when it's not available. This is the old, I can stop whenever I want to until we try. So those first 4 are in that first group we talked about. Number 5, recurrent alcohol use resulting in a failure to fulfill major role obligations at work, school, or home. So for whatever reason, late to work, late coming home, not showing up at your kid's recital, that kind of stuff. Number 6, continued alcohol use despite having persistent or recurrent social or interpersonal problems caused or exacerbated by the effects of alcohol. This is a tricky one because oftentimes I hear, well, it wouldn't be a problem except for my wife is angry about it. It wouldn't be a problem except my kids nag me, or my dad gets mad, or my husband is angry. Well, those are the persistent problems caused by the drinking. Number 7, important social, occupational, or recreational activities are given up or reduced because of alcohol use. So the preference becomes drinking over everything else. So 5, 6, and 7, those are group number 2 that we talked about, the social. Number 8, recurrent alcohol use in situations in which it is physically hazardous. So again, like we talked about, driving while drinking, drinking in situations where you really need to be alert and aware. Number 9, alcohol use is continued despite knowledge of having a persistent or recurrent physical or psychological problem that is likely to have been caused or exacerbated, or heart problem or diabetes or whatever, and it's either caused by alcohol or it's going to be much worse if you continue drinking and you continue anyway. 8 and 9 are the risky drinking, that group. Number 10, tolerance, which is defined by either one of the following: a need for markedly increased amounts of alcohol to achieve intoxication or the desired effect, or a markedly diminished effect with continued use of the same amount. So it's either the effect's going down or the use has to go up. Withdrawal, which is manifested by either of the following: characteristic withdrawal syndrome of alcohol, and that we haven't gone over. I'll do it in another video, but typically it means shaking, nausea, vomiting, even hallucinations and seizures. It can be extremely dangerous. Okay, so now we've covered substance use disorder, we've covered alcohol, and we can apply what we've learned to any other of the substance categories that I talked about. So back to the beginning and the idea of powerlessness. So the question is, can we think about that first step? admitted we were powerless over whatever it is, and our lives have become unmanageable. And that's what I want to leave you with. I want to leave you with that thought, and think about that. And please check out the links and phone numbers that I have scrolling at the bottom and also in my link down below, and access those if you need them at all, and even if you just have more information you'd like to obtain. The links online have lots more information, lots of literature, chat rooms, other people that can answer questions, and you don't need to know. If you're just wondering, then please explore, find out more. And that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, if you like this video, to like and subscribe. Thank you. I'm Dr. Wendla. See you next time.